I should have known something was off the moment Emily Carter said she wanted to take the train with me to college instead of flying. She claimed it was for the experience, traveling across states, eating snacks, playing card games, watching the scenery blur past our window like some indie coming-of-age movie. And I fell for it. I bought that ticket faster than I've ever clicked add to cart, canceled my flight, packed up all her favorite snacks, downloaded a bunch of offline games we could play together, and even remembered the stupid pink pillow she claimed she couldn't sleep without. That's how deep I was. But on the morning of our departure, right when everything was supposed to feel exciting and romantic and like the first day of the rest of our lives, Emily answered a call, told me she had an emergency, and left me standing there like a lost puppy in the middle of the station. "You go ahead, James. I'll meet you at the platform." That's all she said before she jumped into a cab and vanished. I stood there frozen, suitcase handles digging into my palms, wondering what could possibly be more important than the trip we'd planned for weeks. I waited at the entrance for nearly half an hour, anxiety clawing at my chest like a damn parasite. But when she finally showed up, she wasn't alone. No. She was laughing with Ryan Kim, the so-called poor student she'd been sponsoring. They were holding hands, giggling like a couple of kids on a field trip, and when they saw me, Ryan's face turned beet red and he yanked his hand away like he'd been caught cheating on a test. "James, it's not what it looks like," he stammered. "Emily just didn't want me to get lost in the crowd, right?" So naturally she held his hand. Because apparently that's what people do now, escort scholarship cases around like lost toddlers. I almost laughed. "Want me to get you a toddler leash next time?" I snapped. Ryan ducked his head like a kicked puppy, and Emily? She just chuckled and tousled my hair like I was the one being ridiculous. "Jealous again, huh? My little grump." She rubbed my head like I was a pet with a tantrum. "Ryan couldn't find a cab, and he's got so much luggage. You've been chauffeured around your whole life. You wouldn't understand." Then she looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Don't be so childish, James." I couldn't breathe. But I said nothing. Even when Ryan bowed awkwardly and offered to carry my stuff to make it up to me. He barely made it 5 steps before dramatically stumbling like a Disney princess. Sorry, I get lightheaded easily." Emily was on him in a flash. "Ryan's not as strong as you, James. Be a good boy and carry your own." She patted my head again like I was some obedient golden retriever and left me alone in the chaos, dragging 2 oversized suitcases while she played bodyguard for him. By the time I got to the sleeper car, sweating through my shirt, shoes scuffed from the crowd, my bunk was the only one left unclaimed. No Emily. No Ryan. Just strangers already stretching out like they owned the place. I texted her. No reply. I called. No answer. Only when the train began pulling out of the station did I finally see them again in Ryan's Instagram story. He had his head on her shoulder, both of them flashing peace signs at the camera. "Thank you for choosing the train just to accommodate me. A new chapter begins. With you, I fear nothing," the caption read. Emily commented, "Proud of you, Ryan. You're my sunshine." My chest tightened so hard I could barely breathe. I typed out a comment, "Yeah, super lively in here. But this kind of lively. I'm done with it." Then Ryan deleted it. Just like that. Erased like I was the intruder in their rom-com. I tried to sleep, but the air in the cabin felt thick, hot, sour. When I finally dozed off from sheer exhaustion, I woke up to her hand stroking my hair. I slapped it away. "Don't touch me." She just smiled like I was being dramatic. "Come on, don't be like this." I couldn't hear my phone over the train noise. She tapped my nose like I was being cute. "You got the sleeper ticket, didn't you?" I gave mine up for Ryan. He's stuck in a hard seat. And there it was. The real reason. Not to spend time with me. Not to make up for ditching me earlier. But to take my bed. Ryan's not feeling well. He gets carsick. Let him sleep here for a bit, okay? You can join me later. We'll cuddle, I'll buy you snacks, whatever you want. I stared at her, jaw clenched. So you're not here to comfort me. You're here to steal my bed. She tried to laugh it off, but I shoved her away. Get out. I don't need you. Ryan rushed over like some knight in shining armor. Emily, are you okay? He turned to me, his eyes watery, trembling lip in full force. I'm sorry. I know I'm poor. I know I'm a burden. But how could you hit her, James? He stepped forward like a martyr ready to sacrifice himself. I can't afford a sleeper ticket. I get sick on trains. That's on me. But you? You're rich. You're privileged. You look down on people like me. Fine. I can live with that. But she loves you. She's so good to you. How could you raise your hand against her? I didn't even touch her. But the other passengers were already staring like I was scum. Like I was some entitled brat throwing a tantrum. My chest felt like it was caving in. I couldn't catch my breath. Just when I was about to explode, the train jolted, and everything spun. Emily stepped toward me, finally looking worried. James. But then Ryan grabbed his head and moaned dramatically. Emily, I feel so sick. And just like that, she forgot me again. Here, baby, lay down, she whispered, easing him onto my bunk. Then she looked at me like I was the one being selfish. Let him rest, James. Think of it as your apology. You can sit over there. I'll be with you later. She kissed my forehead like she hadn't just stabbed me in the chest and walked away. I felt bile rise in my throat. A kind woman across the aisle noticed I was pale and offered to get me hot water. Sit tight, son. Don't push yourself, she said. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. I didn't drink the water. I curled into a ball and tried to survive the night. Around 3 a.m., I woke up aching all over, disoriented, nauseous. No Emily. Just a stranger beside me. I checked my phone. One message from her. Ryan was feeling terrible. I bought an extra sleeper and stayed with him. You're strong. Think of this as a fun experience. See you in the morning. Miss you, Red Heart. I stared at it until my vision blurred. I used to think she loved me. That she'd always protect me. But somewhere between the train station and this moment, I realized Emily Carter was gone. And the girl who replaced her. I didn't know her at all. And this was just the beginning. By the time the train pulled into the next major station, I hadn't slept. I hadn't eaten. I hadn't even moved. My whole body was stiff and aching from sitting upright in that seat for hours, but worse than the physical pain was the hollow ache gnawing away inside my chest. No food, no water, no blanket, hell, not even a damn seat I could lean against properly because someone's duffel bag was jammed against my leg the whole night. And where was Emily? Still playing nurse to Ryan, I guessed. I sent her a message, can you bring over my backpack and water bottle? I left them in the sleeper cabin. No reply. After an hour of radio silence, I forced myself to get up and limp through the rattling cars toward the sleeper car. Every step sent a new jolt of soreness up my legs, and the crowd pressing in around me felt like a fever dream. I finally made it to the cabin, but before I even stepped inside, I heard an unmistakable sound of people laughing, teasing, playing cards. Come on, Emily. You're protecting your boyfriend too hard, is gonna get spoiled. A man's voice, teasing. Boyfriend? What boyfriend? I'm just helping Ryan get the hang of the game. It's his first time playing. That was Emily. Her voice, light, airy, the same tone she used to use with me when she was in a good mood. But now it was for Ryan. Damn, Ryan. You're losing again. Emily's gonna have to baby you forever at this rate. Laughter. Joking. And then Emily's voice again, fond and doting, don't tease him. He's doing his best. He didn't grow up with all this stuff like we did. My legs froze. I stood there, just out of view, my fingers digging into the metal doorframe so hard they went numb. She was lying. All of this Ryan being weak, Ryan not knowing how to navigate the world. It was a performance. The real Emily. She used to skip class to spend my birthdays with me. She once cried when I caught a cold and swore she'd take care of me forever. She was the one who asked to stop being siblings, because she said she wanted to date me when I turned 18. We made a promise that night. A stupid, naive, teenager's promise. But I kept it. I waited. I loved her. And now I was just a nuisance to her, some brat with a trust fund and a bad attitude. I stepped into the room, and the whole crowd turned. Ryan was leaning back against my pillow, the one I packed because Emily said she couldn't sleep without it, and holding a half-eaten cookie between his lips. Emily was bent over him, her face close, their mouths nearly touching as they played that stupid game where you eat the same cookie from both ends. She was smiling. Focused. Her entire posture screamed intimacy. I didn't think. I just moved. I grabbed Ryan by the collar and yanked him up. The slap came without warning, powered by every ounce of betrayal and humiliation I'd swallowed over the past 24 hours. He gasped, stumbled backward, clutching his cheek. James! Emily cried, rushing to him. Are you insane? What am I looking at? I spat. Didn't he have motion sickness last night? Couldn't even sit upright without whining. But he can do this? Emily opened her mouth, but Ryan cut in, tears brimming in his eyes. You're right. I shouldn't have touched your food. I didn't mean to upset you. Then, before I could speak, he started slapping himself. Once. Twice. Hard enough that the sound echoed off the metal walls. I'm sorry. I'm poor. I'm nobody. I shouldn't be here. I'll kneel if that makes you feel better. He dropped to his knees and slammed them onto the floor just as a passenger passed by holding a cup of instant noodles. The guy tripped. The cup spilled. Boiling hot soup sloshed onto my feet, seeping through the mesh sneakers I'd bought to match Emily's. I grunted in pain, but Ryan screamed louder, clutching his wrist like he'd been scalded to death. Emily. It hurts. Emily rushed to his side, cradling his arm like he was made of glass. You've gone too far, James, she snapped, shooting me a glare like I was the monster in the room. You hit him, humiliated him, and now you've burned him. Are you even human anymore? My face had gone pale. My foot was throbbing, skin burning, but none of that mattered to her. He bumped into me, I said through gritted teeth. The noodles spilled on me, not him. You were wearing shoes, Ryan said calmly, raising his red but otherwise unburned arm. Your shoes protected you. I didn't have anything. Emily nodded. Exactly. Don't lie, James. That's disgusting. Something inside me snapped. This wasn't the girl I loved. This wasn't the Emily I defended all my life. You know these are the same shoes I gave you last week, right? I muttered. The breathable mesh ones. The ones water goes right through. She flinched. For a split second, she looked like she remembered. But it didn't matter. She helped Ryan up and said, let's get you cleaned up. And just like that, they left me standing there, foot throbbing, heart shattered, while the other passengers gave me dirty looks. I limped back to the hard seat, soaked sock squelching in my shoe, stomach churning from pain and betrayal. Hours later, the train began slowing near its final stop. Emily finally came back to the seat like nothing happened. So. Did you cool off? She asked, smiling like we were still in the middle of a dumb lover's spat. She rubbed my head. I'm sorry, okay? The signal on the train was awful. I didn't see your messages. But hitting people? That's not okay, babe. She kissed my forehead like I was a child who needed taming. You're my good boy, right? Let's just forget about it. Don't be stubborn. I didn't respond. Not because I agreed. But because I was too tired to fight anymore. She thought my silence meant forgiveness. There we go, she giggled. That's my sweet James. I felt nothing. Not shame. Not anger. Just nothing. When the train finally pulled in, she tried to grab my hand. Don't wander off, okay? I don't want to lose my boyfriend after one train ride. I pulled away. You already did. Her eyes flickered, but she brushed it off with a laugh. Then she turned to Ryan. Hold on to me, okay? The station's packed. Ryan nodded and looped his arm around hers. I was left behind with 2 massive suitcases and a heart that felt like it had been stomped on by every passenger on that train. I pulled out my phone, stared at the screen for a long second, and typed a single message to my mom: cancel all of Emily Carter's cards. Immediately. And just like that, I severed the last piece of rope holding me to her. I should have known better than to trust a stranger offering help the moment I got off that train, but after everything, after dragging 2 oversized suitcases down steep steps with no one giving a damn, I was already exhausted beyond reason, and when that kind older woman from earlier popped up beside me and offered to carry one of my bags down the platform, I just nodded numbly. That's a heavy load for one boy, she said cheerfully, shoving her coat into my arms like it was a favor I was doing her. Hold this for me, sweetheart. I clutched her coat, not thinking much of the odd sour smell on it, figured it was just hours on the train, and followed her down the platform like a zombie. She moved fast, weaving between people like she knew the station by heart, and I struggled to keep up, my foot still aching from the burn, my arms trembling. That's when it hit me. Not emotionally, literally. A wave of nausea so intense it felt like someone unplugged my brain. My knees buckled, my vision blurred, and I couldn't form a single thought. That's when I heard her voice, sharp, low, smug. He really is a pretty one, she murmured, brushing her fingers across my cheek like I was some porcelain doll. No wonder Ryan said he'd be valuable. That name snapped something inside me, but my mouth wouldn't move. She grabbed my hand. From now on, I'm your Aunt Diane, got it? My body nodded even as my mind screamed. Good boy. I was being taken. Kidnapped. I knew it, every part of me knew it, but I couldn't speak, couldn't run, couldn't even drop the damn coat. Somewhere in the back of my mind, my phone buzzed. Emily. I saw her name flash on the screen, and for a second, a tiny spark of hope lit up. But Aunt Diane snorted. Oh, don't hold your breath. That little girlfriend of yours isn't coming. And sure enough, she picked up the call like it was hers, answering in a syrupy tone. Hi, sweetie. James can't talk right now. We're just a little busy. Then she hung up. My last lifeline, gone. Apparently, Emily had texted to say Ryan was having heatstroke and she was taking him to the hospital. Told me to grab the freshman shuttle myself. Be a good boy, she'd written, like she always did when she was brushing me off. The fog in my brain was thick, but even through it I understood Ryan had sold me out. This whole act, the shy stutters, the fainting spells, the sickly sweet personate, was all a scam. Emily played right into it, protected him every step of the way, and now here I was, drugged, kidnapped, and God knew where I was being taken. I couldn't even tell if it was day or night when I was shoved into a van, but I remember the slam of the door, the sound of it locking, and the complete darkness that followed. Somewhere far away, I heard shouting, tires screeching. Someone's following us, the woman barked. Step on it. It's a damn motorcycle, the driver shouted. And shit, there's cops behind them. My heart kicked hard in my chest. Someone came for me. Someone saw. Maybe no, it couldn't be Emily. She was too busy holding Ryan's hand in an ER. Then another voice, female, furious, shouting my name like it meant everything. That's when I knew. It was Sarah Lee. My neighbor. My once annoying, too responsible older sister figure who used to lecture me about taking my vitamins and slouching. She'd come back from college to help with orientation. And she saw. Of all people, she saw me getting dragged off that train. The van jerked, swerved, slammed into something. The last thing I saw was her face white with panic, eyes wide with terror just before everything went black. When I woke up, everything hurt. My head throbbed, my mouth tasted like chemicals, and every muscle in my body felt like it had been wrung out like a towel. I was in a hospital room, beeping machines and white light and the stale antiseptic air filling my lungs. At first, I couldn't move. Couldn't think. Then I heard the shouting. Outside the room. You have the nerve to show your face here. Sarah's voice, sharp as a blade. Where were you when he was being dragged off by strangers? Playing cards with your precious Ryan. It's none of your business, another voice, Emily, slower, defensive. I'll apologize to James myself. Just let me talk to him. Apologize? Sarah scoffed. You think that's enough? You let him get taken. He could have died. Hell, he almost did. There was a scuffle, a crash, the door burst open, and Emily stumbled in, face red, hair wild, eyes glossy with unshed tears. James, she cried, rushing to my bed. I flinched. She stopped short, hurt flashing across her face. I didn't mean to ignore you. I didn't know. I swear, I didn't. Get out, I croaked. My voice was gravel, but it was enough. She flinched again. James, please. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have trusted Ryan. I didn't know he was involved. I thought I was helping. Get out. She dropped to her knees beside the bed. Please don't shut me out. I messed up, okay? I'll never talk to him again. I'll do whatever it takes to make it up to you. I looked at her, really looked at her. The tear-streaked face. The trembling hands. And all I felt was a bitter emptiness. You don't get to be the victim, I said flatly. You left me. For someone who turned out to be a criminal. And when I was crying out for help, you were busy playing house. She sobbed harder, whispering my name over and over, but I had no more sympathy left. We're done, Emily. Go crawl back to your guilt trip and leave me the hell alone. She tried to reach for my hand. I slapped it away. You're lucky I don't press charges for negligence. That was when my mom stormed in. Her eyes were puffy, her voice shaky, but her fury was volcanic. You, she snarled, pointing at Emily. You lost the right to call yourself family the second you put him in danger. Emily dropped her head, begging for forgiveness, but Mom wasn't having it. She kicked her. Not metaphorically. She actually kicked her, right in the side, and I had to grab her arm before she exploded further. Emily mistook it for concern. James, you're still protecting me, she gasped. You still care, don't you? No, I said coldly. I'm protecting my mother's blood pressure. Don't flatter yourself. And for the first time in my life, Emily Carter finally looked like she understood what losing everything meant. She wept on the floor, muttering apologies that meant nothing, whispering about how she only wanted to help Ryan because he reminded her of her time in the orphanage. I didn't care. I was done with her sob stories. Done with her misplaced compassion. Sarah came back in just as I turned my face to the window. You good? She asked, her tone gentle now. I nodded slightly. Let's call the cops, I muttered. Ryan sold me out. I want him arrested. Sarah didn't even blink. Already on it. The minute I said I wanted Ryan Kim arrested, Sarah didn't hesitate. She nodded with that fierce gleam in her eyes, the same one I remembered from when we were kids and some brat tried to steal my lunchbox in elementary school. She was always the first one to act, always the one who stood up for me when I didn't know how to stand up for myself. This time was no different. Within the hour, an officer arrived to take my statement. They'd already launched an investigation after catching the woman who drugged me and driving that van during the failed escape attempt. Apparently, she cracked fast once she realized Sarah had chased them with campus security and the police not far behind. And now that I was awake and ready to talk, everything started falling into place like dominoes. I told them about the suspicious train encounter, the forced hard seat, the way Ryan had inserted himself into every moment between me and Emily, how he played sick to win sympathy, how he magically fainted at just the right time to manipulate her, how I was drugged the moment I stepped off the train and handed my bag to that kind auntie while clutching her weird-smelling coat. But the most damning thing was my phone. Even drugged, I hadn't turned it off, and some background processes kept running. Text logs, missed call data, and timestamped GPS information placed me exactly where I said I'd been. Sarah had taken photos and videos when she saw me being led away, at first unsure, then horrified. She had even shouted my name in a crowded terminal, and when I didn't respond, she sprinted after us. That footage was now solid evidence. Police traced Ryan's phone. They found deleted messages to burner numbers. Cash transfers that didn't match his financial aid records. But the worst discovery was when they investigated his hometown. Ryan Kim wasn't just some unlucky orphan Emily had decided to sponsor out of the kindness of her bleeding heart. His entire village, Riverside Hollow, was under quiet federal observation for suspicion of human trafficking. The place was practically a ghost town to the outside world, cut off, tightly controlled, notorious in black market circles. His mother had been abducted years ago from a university, and instead of being rescued, she was forced into that village and gave birth to him there. So yeah. It turns out the shy, soft-spoken boy who Emily kept defending was the perfect front for a pipeline that funneled people in and sold them for parts. Literal organ harvesting. The more they uncovered, the sicker I felt. Ryan had just turned 18 2 days before we got on the train. That made him legally an adult old enough to be charged. And boy, did they charge him. Expulsion, arrest, court proceedings, and his face blasted all over the media. In one viral week, he went from model student with a tragic past to master manipulator, prime suspect in cross-state human trafficking. My mom wanted to sue Emily too. Said negligence wasn't enough of a word. She blamed her for everything, taking me on that train, not protecting me, trusting the wrong people, and worst of all, believing Ryan over me every single time. But I stopped her. I didn't want another courtroom circus. I just wanted Emily Carter gone. And she got the message. After that hospital breakdown, she tried coming around a few more times, leaving food at the front desk, asking my roommates about me, waiting outside class buildings hoping I'd acknowledge her. I didn't. Sarah caught her once and kicked her in the shin. I was there for that. Emily cried and limped away. Sarah called it justice. I called it enough. Eventually, Emily stopped showing up. Someone said she lost access to her trust fund after Mom froze her cards and that she'd taken a job somewhere to pay her rent. I didn't care. Let her figure it out like the rest of us. I went back to school and tried to resume normal life. But even with everything in the past, I couldn't sleep at night without seeing that van door slam shut. I kept dreaming that no one came. That I got sold. That I woke up with a kidney missing in some underground hospital in the middle of nowhere. I'd jolt awake drenched in sweat, and the only thing that calmed me down was Sarah's voice on the other end of the line. She never said much. Just, "I'm here, dummy," or "You're safe, breathe." But that was all I needed. She didn't ask me to forgive anyone. She didn't try to make me look at the bright side. She just stayed. And maybe that's why I started smiling again. Maybe that's why when she brought me coffee and sat on the quad lawn with her laptop, I stopped seeing her as just the neighborhood big sis and started noticing how her eyes crinkled when she laughed, or how she always wore mismatched socks, or how she had a habit of muttering movie quotes under her breath when she thought no one was listening. She wasn't trying to fix me. She was just present. And after everything I'd been through, that meant everything. One afternoon, we were sitting under a tree between classes, and she turned to me and said, "You know, for a spoiled rich kid, you turned out okay." "You think I'm spoiled?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. You literally have a coffee with gold flakes in it right now, she pointed out. I smirked. Want a sip? She rolled her eyes. Hard pass. Tastes like capitalism. I laughed harder than I had in months. That's when I realized I didn't need to erase the trauma to move forward. I just needed something real. Someone real. And Sarah had been that since day one. Even when I didn't know I needed her. Even when I was still hung up on Emily and her false promises. Even when I was too stupid to see who really had my back. Later that night, as I was organizing my class notes, I found a folded piece of paper Sarah had slipped into my bag without telling me. It just said, "If anyone ever tries to hurt you again, I'll make sure they regret it." Signed, your favorite human taser. I laughed so hard I almost cried. And that was when I realized I was finally okay. Not perfect. Not healed. But okay enough to keep going. And that was more than I thought I'd ever be again. A full year passed before I saw Emily Carter again, and by that time, I'd already started thinking of the whole disaster as something that happened in another life. Sarah Lee had graduated and was preparing to head overseas for grad school, and I had just gotten accepted into a university abroad too. We weren't anything official, neither of us had said the words, but she held my hand in public now, and sometimes she'd call just to say, "Breathe, dumbass," and that was more love than Emily ever gave me in 2 years of pretending. We had plans. Small ones, real ones: late night ramen, library study sessions, laughing at how I still jumped at the microwave beep like a trauma patient. But just as I was dragging my suitcase across the airport drop-off zone, coat half-zipped and passport tucked between my teeth, someone came tearing through the crowd like she was starring in a rom-com finale. "James," she screamed. I didn't even need to look. That voice had been stamped into the back of my brain. I stopped walking, turned, and there she was, Emily Carter, thinner than I remembered, her hair tied in a messy ponytail, face pale, eyes rimmed with desperation. "James, don't leave. Please," she choked, breathless from running. "I'm working now. I've been saving money. I'll fix everything, I swear, just don't go with her." Her voice cracked at the end, and for a second, the crowd around us froze like they were watching a breakup scene unfold live. But this wasn't a breakup. This was closure. This was someone trying to claim a future in a story she'd burned to the ground with her own hands. I let go of Sarah's hand gently, stepped forward until I was close enough to look Emily in the eye, and said, "You don't get to ask me to wait. Not after everything you made me wait through alone." She flinched. "I didn't know, James, I didn't know Ryan was like that. I thought I was helping." "You thought wrong," I said coldly. "You thought leaving me with no food, no water, no help was fine as long as you were busy playing savior. You thought taking my bed to comfort a liar was somehow noble. You thought your guilt would be enough to wipe it all clean. But it's not. And I'm done pretending like it is." "I didn't mean to hurt you," she whispered. "But you did," I replied. Over and over again. "And the worst part? You didn't even notice." She shook her head, tears streaking down her cheeks. "I know I was blind, but I love you, James. I always have. I just got lost." "You don't love someone and still make them feel disposable," I said, my voice quieter now. "You don't throw them to the wolves, then cry when they don't crawl back." Her hands trembled. "I never stopped thinking about you." "Good," I cut her off. "Then you'll remember this as the day you watched me walk away." I turned, walked back to Sarah, who stood calmly, arms folded, head tilted like she'd seen this scene play out in 100 dramas and already knew how it ended. I took her hand. "Let's go." We didn't look back. Emily didn't scream again. She just stood there, swallowed by the crowd, and I knew this time, she understood it was really over. On the flight, I kept thinking about everything that led to this point. About how heartbreak doesn't always come in explosions. Sometimes it's slow. A drip. A drop. A series of tiny betrayals until one day you look up and realize the person who promised to protect you is the one holding the knife. Emily had every chance to choose me, and every single time, she chose someone else. I'd spent so long trying to earn her attention, her approval, her affection, trying to be her good boy, when all she wanted was someone weaker she could protect, someone who made her feel needed. And when that person turned out to be a monster, she didn't even have the decency to say, I was wrong. Not really. Just, I didn't mean it. But intentions don't heal wounds. Actions do. And Sarah didn't need to say she loved me for me to know it. She showed up. She fought for me. She saw me drowning and didn't ask why, I just saw her diving in. That's what love is. Not drama. Not guilt. Not, wait for me to grow up. It's steady. It's fierce. It's pulling someone out of hell without asking them to thank you. The week we landed abroad, it rained non-stop. I hated the cold, hated how everything smelled like wet pavement, and my jet lag had me seeing stars at noon. But when Sarah handed me a coffee with 2 sugars and no milk, exactly the way I liked it, I realized I didn't care about the weather. I had survived worse. And I wasn't alone anymore. That night, while we were sitting by the dorm window watching the rain, I asked her, why did you chase that van? She shrugged. Because I knew no one else would. Not even Emily. I asked. She looked at me for a long time, then said, especially not Emily. And just like that, something in me settled. We didn't need big speeches. The truth was already between us, quiet and unshakable. She wasn't the girl I fell for when I was 17. She was the woman I would have chosen every time if I hadn't been so busy chasing ghosts. A few days later, I received an email from the police department. The case had closed. Ryan Kim had been sentenced. His village Riverside Hollow was officially under federal investigation, and dozens of victims had been rescued, including his own birth mother, who broke down in court when she realized her son had become one of them. Ryan had no defense. The messages, the photos, my testimony, it was airtight. The judge sentenced him to years in prison. The school revoked his student status permanently. He was finished. As for Emily, I heard she was still working odd jobs, trying to apply to other colleges, but I didn't follow up. That chapter was closed. And I didn't care to read the epilogue. Meanwhile, Sarah and I kept building our new life classes, assignments, silent study sessions that always ended with one of us asleep on the other's shoulder. And every time she looked at me like I was more than just someone who'd survived, like I was someone worth loving, I felt grateful. Not for the pain, but for making it through. For finally understanding the difference between being needed and being wanted. And for realizing that the real happy endings don't come from people who beg you to stay. They come from those who never let you go to begin with. It's strange how silence can feel louder than screaming, how the absence of someone's presence can weigh heavier than their betrayal ever did. Months passed after the trial ended, and Emily Carter's name stopped appearing in notifications, DMs, random campus whispers. The group chats that once buzzed with gossip about the girl who let her boyfriend get trafficked had moved on to newer scandals. Ryan Kim became a cautionary tale in orientation manuals and ethics courses, his face blurred in news clips and filed away into some forgotten archive labeled, "Trafficking Ring Cracked." No one talked about the long nights in sleeper cars or the boiling noodles that burned more than just skin. But I remembered. I remembered everything. The cold steel of the train bunk. The sound of Emily laughing with someone else while I starved in the next car. The moment I realized that someone who promised to protect me could so easily choose someone else. And yet, that memory didn't haunt me like it used to. Not anymore. Because now I had new memories to overwrite them. Like Sarah handing me a warm breakfast sandwich at 6 a.m. Because she knew I couldn't handle cafeteria coffee. Like her forcing me to wear a dumb puffy coat she thrifted just because my face looked extra cold. Like her grinning like an idiot when I passed my finals and hugging me like she was the one who'd studied all night. That was the thing about Sarah Lee, she never tried to replace my pain with clichés or distractions. She just stayed. And slowly, piece by piece, her presence became stronger than my past. I still saw a therapist once a week. Not because I was broken. But because healing deserves structure. Some days I talked about the van. Some days I talked about Emily. Some days I just sat there in silence, letting the air fill with things I hadn't figured out how to name yet. But always, at the end of every session, I'd step outside and see Sarah waiting nearby, pretending she just happened to be passing by, even though we both knew she memorized my schedule. We never talked about it. We didn't have to. That spring, I got an email from Emily. Not a message begging for forgiveness or asking for a second chance, just a plain, stiffly worded subject line, "I owe you the truth." The body of the email was short. She'd been working 2 part-time jobs, had enrolled in online classes, and had started volunteering for a victim recovery nonprofit. "I've spent the past year trying to make sense of everything I did," she wrote. "I won't ask for your forgiveness, because I don't deserve it. I just want you to know I finally see it. What I did. What I didn't do. And how much it cost you. I was a coward who called it compassion. I was blind because it made me feel powerful. And I hurt you because I was too wrapped up in the version of myself I wanted to be. I'm sorry. Not because I want you back. But because you never should have had to survive me." I read it twice. Then a third time. And for the first time in forever, I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel vindicated or satisfied or even relieved. I just felt done. Like her chapter had finally closed, not with a bang, not with closure, but with something simpler, peace. I didn't reply. I forwarded the email to my mom, who read it and scoffed. She's still 3 years too late and a few brain cells short. Sarah read it too and didn't say anything. Just handed me her last gyoza and said, "Closure tastes better with dumplings." She wasn't wrong. Summer came fast, and with it, the anniversary of the train ride that changed my life. Sarah and I took a trip not on a train, though she joked about buying us second-class tickets just for the trauma bonding. Instead, we rented a beat-up car and drove up the coast, eating gas station ice cream and blasting music from a scratched old speaker that kept cutting out every time we hit a bump. We didn't have a plan. No schedules, no bookings. Just the open road and the luxury of time. On the last night of the trip, we parked by the ocean, windows down, the salt air thick with fog, and I turned to her and asked, "Why me?" She blinked. "Why not you?" I hesitated, unsure if I wanted to sound dramatic or just honest. "After everything. Why didn't you give up on me?" She smiled, leaned her head back against the seat, and said, "Because I saw you. Even when you didn't see yourself." I didn't say anything back. I just reached across the center console and took her hand. She squeezed it once, hard, and that was it. That was all I needed. No grand confession. No fireworks. Just her, steady as always, reminding me in her own quiet way that not every love story has to begin with butterflies. Sometimes it starts with loyalty. With someone showing up when the world falls apart. With someone holding your bruised, broken soul and saying, "Hey, I'm still here." When we got back, I started writing again. Nothing fancy, just journal entries, blog posts, little reflections about survival and hope and what it means to outgrow the people you once thought would never leave. And one day, I got an email from a nonprofit asking if I'd be willing to speak at a high school about trafficking awareness. I almost said no. But Sarah nudged me. "You don't owe them your story," she said. "But maybe someone out there needs to hear it." So I did. I stood in front of a room full of bored teenagers and told them what it felt like to be seen as luggage instead of a person, how easy it is to trust the wrong people when they smile the right way, and how healing isn't a straight line, it's a mess, a loop, a stubborn heartbeat that refuses to quit. I ended with this: if someone makes you feel small so they can feel big, that's not love. And if you ever find someone who chooses you, not for who you could be, but for who you are even when you're a wreck, hold on to them. Because those people, they're the ones worth trusting. When I walked off stage, Sarah was waiting at the back of the auditorium, arms crossed, eyes shining. "You were decent," she said. I laughed. That's your review? I'm your girlfriend, she replied. Not your fan club. It was the first time she'd said it out loud. Girlfriend. I smiled like an idiot the entire walk home. A year ago, I was a mess of scars and silence, still trying to make sense of why love had failed me so cruelly. Now, I was holding the hand of a woman who never asked me to be perfect, who never kept score, who never flinched at the parts of me that still shook. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of being loved. I was ready to believe it.